My name's Bill McPhee, and I participate in a group called The Barn. And The Barn stands for Broken and Restored New. Because a lot of you who know, a lot of times Christians have a testimony, and a testimony just basically says what the Lord has done for us. And a lot of Christians at one time have been really broken, whether it be drug addiction or alcoholism or just the life being a mess. And Jesus helps us make the mess better. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about, in a few minutes, I'm going to introduce Dan Barrett. And Dan and I get together every morning to pray. Since that, basically, we pray for ongoing requests, and also we also talk about the Lord and spend the day together, pretty well Monday to Friday, just on our computers, and Dan trades oil and things like that, and I'm just, I have a view across the river, and it's very, very nice atmosphere. So what I'm going to do now, I wanted to give you a bit of basics around Christianity, and then Dan's going to come here and talk a little about world economics or world events and just trends. And I'll explain a little about that in a little bit more. So most Christians believe that the Bible is true. And we believe that we are all sinners, and we need to be forgiving for our sin. And that's where Jesus comes in. Jesus is God, and he went to the cross for our sins, and was crucified, so we can be forgiven. And that's what makes us being forgiven is that Jesus is God's Son and God Himself. So basically, Jesus died on the cross, and He rose 3 days. There was a resurrection. Actually, this coming Sunday, we call it Resurrection Sunday. So basically, we were, as Christians, we were asked by Jesus to go out and become to do the Great Commission. And the Great Commission is basically going out and sharing the good news of Jesus coming, and that Jesus had a way of forgiving our sins. And we accept that way. And then finally, a lot of Christians believe in Jesus' second coming. His first coming was the time when He was born. And the second coming is going to be in the future. Now, I want to just make a couple things clear. Nobody knows when Jesus is coming back, but we are kind of mandated to look at the signs of the times, and kind of that's what Dan and I do. We kind of like deal in the signs of the times, and so basically. Going to introduce Dan in a second, but basically the signs of the times that a lot of people like to get into are two books of the Bible. One is Daniel and the other is Revelation. And just to give you a real truth, a lot of people might try to interpretate those books, but to tell you the truth, no one in the world really can understand Daniel and Revelation completely. A lot of people try. But we do know that Jesus is coming, and we're going to be watchful. Okay. So we talk about Jesus coming back, and we don't know a lot about that. But in the Bible, it's very clear that there's a 7-year tribulation. Now, half jokingly, I tell people, and I tell Dan, that I believe that we're in the second year of tribulation. 2020 was the start, the first year. And 2021 is the second year, so that's just obviously we don't know. We have absolutely no idea, but it is fun to analyze current events and talk about a 7-year tribulation. So now I'd like to introduce my buddy Dan Barrett. And Dan and I, we get together every morning and we pray. And we spend the day talking about world events and current events and things like that. So with further ado, here's Dan Barrett.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Bill. As Bill said, no one really knows when Jesus is going to come back. And I'm sure throughout history there's been many times where people have said, oh, for sure, this is the tribulation. This is this is the first year, etc., etc. But the more Bill and I talk and we start looking at different signs that we see around the world now, again, nobody can guarantee when. Only God will know when he's returning. But there's been a lot more signs now that are a lot more relevant in today's world that we're both seeing, and I'd just like to share some of them with you. First of all, the world has become far more globalized. Even this week, when one ship was blocking the Suez Canal, worldwide distribution of products was totally tied up. China is trading with the USA, USA is trading with Hong Kong. Everybody's tied in with each other. 200 years ago, this wasn't the way. The USA traded with themselves, or maybe just with a few different partners. Today, we're one big world. Everybody's trading with each other. With the internet as well, anybody in the world can talk to each other. We are all interconnected. So we're all one big world. And as a result, if with this one big world, perhaps it could be leading to a one world government someday. For example, now we have the United Nations, of course, but now with COVID, we have a World Health Organization. So there's one body that is giving health information to the entire world. Once again, look back 200 years ago, there wasn't a United Nations. There wasn't a World Health Organization. None of that was taking place. The International Monetary Fund, there's a group set up to monitor how assets are distributed throughout the world. If a country has problems, all the countries get together, they give money to the International Monetary Fund, they lend it out and try to help the other countries. None of that ever really existed in the past, which again, as part of the Lord coming back, according to Bill, a one world government. And slowly, we're moving towards that with those organizations. Also, we're finding with even money today, 50 years ago, everybody used cash and the credit card was starting. Now they're talking about digital currency. With digital currency, perhaps money will be replaced. Perhaps there'll be no currency with paper money at all. Why? Many governments claim it's easier to track the money. I feel if it's easier to track the money, it's easier to control the people. They know exactly where all the money is going. Many countries say it's an excuse to cut down on a black market. It's an excuse to cut down on drug smuggling and drug money. But if they control the money supply, they control you. Sweden, for example, now roughly 90% of the transactions are all digital. Hardly anybody uses cash in the country of Sweden. 15 years ago, you never would have thought this, that we would have been going digital. In regards to your digital identification online, we all have social security numbers. We all have numbers. We're getting paid digitally. We can make payments digitally. Everything's moving away from paper to a digital world where it can be tracked. Everybody, your cell phone, when you have your cell phone, they can track where you are, what you're doing, how much what you're doing. There's even some programs that could even be listening in to us right now on our phones that we don't even know about. Bill had an example last week. We were talking about Art Linkletter. We were talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
The very next day, out of nowhere, he sees ads for Art Linkletter. He doesn't check into art Linkletter. Perhaps this is a paranoia. We're not saying it's paranoid, but it's an awful, interesting coincidence that we can have a verbal conversation and he sees us the very next day. And I've had that happen to me many times as well. How? Maybe I checked for a word on Google that went into an algorithm that said, oh, Dan likes hockey, and I'm getting hockey ads the next day, and then hockey games, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So more and more digitalization and digital money, which can easily be transferred into a one world government that can be tracked. Another thing are resources. More and more in the world, our resources are becoming limited. Did you know that sand is slowly running out? They're really worried that the grain of sand that is used to make concrete is becoming an endangered resource. There could be millions of grains of sand in Sahara and on beaches, but it's not gritty enough. We're running out of sand. Every day I hear about water shortages worldwide. Africa always has shortages. The United States government, when they do their contingency plans 50 years out, water is the number one issue. It's not nuclear war or anything. They're worried about water, fresh water being available, and people coming to get into North America in order just to have drinking water. There's no life without water. I watched a program on Israel the other night saying how much billions of dollars they're spending to filter salt water and turn it into fresh water. The only problem is the runoff of the brine water could be destroying aquifers. So we're running out of these resources. Oil. Oil is a limited resource. We've had fracking that's been going on. All of the easy spots for oil, they say, have been gone. But even with the move to solar power and wind power, you have to have products made of oil to capture these products. So we're running out of oil. The population, we have a massive population in the world right now. It's been so huge. We're hearing of food shortages worldwide. As the population expands, they take up more land that's used for growing. What happens? There's less food to be grown. We have companies like Monsanto that have genetically modified wheat and soybeans, et cetera, that natural soybeans are hardly being grown, which I'm sure John knows, that they want to control the DNA of the food that we grow, which is more controlled, again, for like a one organization controlling the food source, one organization controlling the health source, one organization controlling all the money. I'm just finding more and more we're moving into a period of perhaps a one world government. Another and final major sign right now is with the population. The world's population in general is a lot older than it was 20 years ago. There's being far more older people that are living longer and far less people being born. The average age of the world right now is roughly 31 years old. Countries like Japan, the average age is close to 50. North America, in the USA, Canada is roughly 34, the USA is roughly 32. Germany are in their 40s. Cuba, 46 years old is the average age. What happens when we run out of younger people? They can't take care of the older people. When the older people die off, what happens? There's not going to be the people there to come in to buy the houses that the older people had. There's not going to be people there to help pay for the health care that the older people need, et cetera, et cetera. That's a very scary situation, and as a result, countries like Germany, Canada have been having huge immigration to our country to make up for the loss of birth rates in our countries. Again, so when there's more people coming from other countries into an established country like Canada, we're seeing how it's more globalization in a way as well, because you're having a complete different mindset, ideas, religion, et cetera, coming into something that's been established for 100 years. which again is making the entire population far more global, even within one country. Think of even being in this town 30 years ago. It was white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant. Today, I would say it's probably 60%, but someplace like London, England, I would say it's more Muslim than it is Christian right now. Good or bad, that's the way it is. Look at Toronto. I say Toronto is a totally multicultural city, and we're moving more and more towards that. Coming back again into the population issue is the financial problems that the world's in right now. Massive financial problems. COVID has only made it worse. And the main reason is, again, are the demographics of people. The world's population is getting older, and there's not enough young people coming in to make the products, to spend the money to support the older people that are getting older and slowly dying off. It probably won't be for another 20 or 30 years that perhaps we may regain balance. As a result, we're seeing worldwide, the United States has deficits that will never be paid off. China has deficits that will never be paid off. Canada in the last year, 2 years ago, their deficit was $10 million. This year it's $238 billion.
Right, two trillion.
Trillions. We're talking trillions of dollars worldwide. And realistically, I cannot see any of this ever being paid off. Will it come to a day where, again, they just say, either we're going to wipe out all the debts and have a one world government, or are we going to have wars where one country is going to default on their money and the other country is going to attack and say, you owed us these billions of dollars, we want it. If not, we're taking your land, or taking your resources. Right now, the world is basically spinning on plates. The interest rate is at historical lows. It's never been this low in the history of man. 0 interest rates. Some countries are negative, where you actually have to pay to have your money in the bank. Germany's like that right now. Sweden's like that right now. I think the United States is 0.05. Last week or so, the interest rate in the USA went up to 1.7, and they fear if it goes over 2%, that can't be paid back. The interest can't be paid back. So what do? They print even more money that is based on nothing, more and more. So all of these signs to me, aging population, a massive world population, depletion of resources, the money supply being out of control, all of the move to a digital currency into one world organizations, to me make me feel, compared to any other time in history, we're moving towards what the Bible says, a time of tribulation, a one world government, and maybe a complete way of life that's completely changed until the Lord returns, and there's a reason for all of this. Any questions? Can anybody else see that? What I've just said?
More so now than 1973.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Way more so. Way more so now. But you can see that the puzzle pieces are starting to line up a bit more, or more than any other time in history, I think.
You hear governments talking about the Great Reset. That's what it's pointing to, the one world government, and I don't like to hear that at all, but I guess that's in the Bible, isn't it?
You know, it makes you wonder when you watch the real news, not the talk news, but the real news, and these world leaders have the same talking points.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And every day, over and over again, is like yesterday was global warming, that's the major crisis on Earth, global warming. I thought it was this pandemic that could wipe out the population, but it's global warming. We're not...
It's all coordinated.
Yeah, but...
It feels like it's coordinated.
The average person in the world is not getting the truth.
Yes.
And you know what else is very interesting? Dan follows a news page called Zero Hedge.
Mhm.
And a lot of times these writers, they may not be Christian or anything, but they do know the Bible and they do quote it and things like that. So you have
Yeah.
have
That's
you have
interesting.
secular people actually referring to the Bible.
Yes, yes, which
Yeah.
I've never seen before.
Yeah.
The thing about the one world government that I was talking this to another friend the other day, and he had he thought, he said something that was the only positive thing about one world government. He said, what if we come to a day where there's only so much water, and Canada has it? There's only so much, say, copper, and Brazil has it. There's only so much food, and the United States has it. Well, would a one world government distribute that food properly, or distribute those resources to everybody? If they are pure, and if they are Christian or God-like, or will it be more towards the end of the world, the tribulation, where that's where all the wars start for those limited resources? So again, it's a choice. Will they use? If a one world government comes, will it be democratic and help all, or will it only help so many, or will it cause havoc? And that's the same thing with all the stimulus money now too, especially in the United States.
Well,
A
yeah.
lot of the money is supposed to be for everybody, but 70% is going to the 1%. It's not going to everybody. It's going to 70. It's going to the highest echelon, the way the rules are made. And I've seen that more and more. So is the one world government evil? That is just, they want it all to control everything? Or will it be benevolent and actually do the right thing?
We have 5,000 years of human history to know what human nature is, and more chances of having an evil Ming rather than a benevolent group of people governing the world.
Yes.
But a lot of things that whenever we talk about this, it seems it's fascinating. At the same time, it's scary and terrifying. I think because we think of the immediate, but we have to understand that these things, whether this is or not, is steps towards the fulfillment of prophecy.
Yes.
And we as Christians, when this comes about, and every year we get closer to the end times, whether that's 100 years from now or 1,000 years from now, we get closer. But in a more personal sense, every day that we go through, it's more important that we as Christians reach out and witness to other folks that don't know the love of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like back in the 70s, they had the big thing about the world coming to the end and tribulation starting, the late great planet Earth and
Yes.
and all that.
Mhm.
There was that song, I wish we would all have been ready.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a neighbor of ours, and I this was years ago, and I thought I should go down and talk to them sometime. I want to go down and just witness to them, get to know them a little bit better. And then one day, the mother had a stroke, and she was dead like that, just as though she was struck by lightning. And I thought, I wish I would have done that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's very important that we as Christians get out there and spread the good news. When we go through that door, tonight we're going into the mission field, and it's our home.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, I believe that a lot of people will be asking, which gives us the opportunity, they'll go, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening in this world. And that's a great into that we could start anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, are you familiar with the end times? Death doesn't scare me because of my faith.
Yeah.
We're waiting for Christ to come back again. So they're great introductions into, because you hear that, right? People, I don't know what's going on now. What's happening?
Yeah.
And this could be scared.
The world's gone crazy.
And you got to remember, I think we're all peaceful here because we know Jesus, right? Wouldn't you say?
I think
I
none
have
of us
no
are looking
fear.
forward to those times.
Huh?
None of us, I don't think, are looking forward to those times. But I mean, if it happens,
Yeah.
we know we're
Yeah.
gonna go to a better place.
Yeah.
And I agree with Bill says, as long, and like to me, if someone says that to me, like I just say, again, like I said earlier, only God knows.
Yeah.
I don't know. None of us know when.
No.
Like, you know, what date is it? But we
Right.
just say, well, like I said, here's some signs that have never been here ever, ever, ever. We always had tons of oil, yes? We never had globalization. We've never had zero interest rates, ever, ever in history. We've never had sand and water being an issue, ever. But all these things now are becoming issues. Does it mean it's going to happen next week? Does it matter it's going to happen in 7 years? We don't know. But it's getting, the signs are getting a lot more flashing, where before it was like someone, nobody could argue with any of these things. You know, someone says, well, blah, blah, well, digital currency, was that there 30 years ago? No.
You're talking like Bitcoins and that?
Well, Bitcoin's just been a couple years, but like, I mean, just even
Well-
being able to do transactions online.
Yeah, for
Again.
example, you know what, in real,
Amazon.
remember when COVID was first there? And the stores had, no, we're not accepting cash.
Cash.
No
Cash,
cash,
yeah.
please.
Yes.
No cash.
China's
And now
talking
cash
about.
is dirty. Cash is dirty and could spread disease. That was a big thing. And in the states of the zero hedge, they were screaming, no, because the second they take your cash, that's another freedom that's gone.
China's talking about creating a new currency as well.
Their own, yes. Yes, their own. Canada is as well. Canada is as well.
No.
Yes, I've read that. Canada's talking about it. Now again though, again, I think they would just say, as John said, well, we're all talking about global warming. Why don't we just have one currency? And then, why do we have all this money on governments? Why don't we just have one government?
That's where I believe that's where the carbon tax goes to.
Yes.
Where does that money go?
And why doesn't every country do it? I don't mind doing it, but it's like, okay, don't tell me Mexico is going to pay a carbon tax because they don't have the money. Don't tell me Cuba is going to pay a carbon tax because they're barely eating food and they're going to pay a carbon tax. Don't tell me China. Well, China's starting. China has started. India. Do you think India is going to pay a carbon tax? No.
And we'll end it at that. And just want to close saying that you're always welcome to come to the barn. And we meet Monday nights at 7 o'clock. And if you want more information, you can just reach out to us. Okay?
Life was filled with guns and war, and everyone got trampled on the floor. I wish we'd all been ready. Children died, the days grew cold. A piece of bread could buy a bag of gold. I wish we'd all been ready. But there's no time to change your mind. The sun has come and you've been left behind. Two men walking up a hill. One disappears, one's left standing still. I wish we'd all been ready. A man and wife asleep in bed. He hears a noise and turns his head. She's gone. I wish we'd all been ready. But there's no time to change your mind. The sun's come and you've been left behind. Life was filled with guns and war. Everyone got trampled on the floor. I wish we'd all